Hello everyone, Josh here with Gotcha Legends, bringing y'all another Infinite Magicraid video, and today we have global launch dropping here in just a few hours from now at the recording of today's video. So this is very exciting for a lot of you Infinite Magicraid fans out there that are looking forward to playing a game for the first time. And with that being said, there's a couple things that I really wanted to share with a lot of you, and that is what are some of the best epics and legends in the entire game. So we're going to do this in kind of like a two-part series, two videos. The first one, of course, right now is going to be epics. The one that I drop a little bit later will be legends. So I hope you all do enjoy these. We're going to go through these faction at a time. And without further ado, let's get into it. So let me briefly go over what units we're going to be talking about here today. So from the Dragon Tribe, we have the Red Mark Whim, Red Mark Reeves. From Sword Harbor Guards, we have Green Mark Aboro, Red Mark Virto. From Foresters, we have Blue Mark Stan, Green Mark Malasa. And before we go any further, some of you may be confused with what I mean by Blue Mark, Green Mark, Red Mark. Those are essentially the classification of their element in this game. From Doom Legion, we have Force Mark Liz. Holy Light Parliament, we have Blue Mark Maya. Eternal Sect, Force Mark Holder, which we're going to talk a little bit more about him than the others, and you'll see why. Nameless Brotherhood, Force Mark Lester, Wizard's Eye, Red Mark Magus. So that is the epics that we're going to be going over today. So I hope you guys all enjoy, and if I did miss any, let me know in the comment section below if you are familiar with the game via the test server. We've played multiple accounts on this game, and we've extensively looked over all the kits and units in this game. So it's been a lot of work, a lot of research, but I hope you guys do enjoy these. They're fun to make, and I hope you all enjoy. So let's first go into the Dragon Tribe. As we've already talked about, we're going to talk about our boy Whim. Whim is protection shield. He is, of course, a defense type unit. And that doesn't always mean that they're not going to provide you DPS, so keep that in mind. It's just kind of the type classification that they have. He, of course, is a red mark. He's got a base HP of 9100, attack 715, defense 715, and speed 965. So his attack and defense, of course, are on the lower end, but he has very good HP for an epic. Very good HP. So skill 1, he deals 200% defense damage to a single enemy. That can, of course, can go up to 280. So very good there. Scales to defense. Deals 100% defense damage to an enemy and another 2 random enemies, and grants all allies consolidation for 2 turns. And consolidation is essentially reduces 20% of the damage taken. That can go up, of course, and you can also lower the cooldown when you skill it up. Passive. For every ally whose HP is below 24%, Whim grants them a shield by 20% of max HP when he survives for 2 turns. You can reduce the skill cooldown of Zeal by 1 with his level 3 exclusive weapon. And what exclusive weapons essentially are is you're basically feeding in dupes of that unit at, I believe, level 5, I'm sorry, at 5-star. And then of course you can unlock one of the levels of the exclusives all the way up to a level 5. But level 4 and 5 are usually just stat bonuses in most cases, so it's really just the first 3 levels that you're really aiming for. Now, you can, of course, level that up to level 5 and get the additional HP restoration trigger rate, which is nice. Now, this is what makes him really, really good, though. Grants a shield of 40% of Whim's max HP on all allies for 2 turns, which will go down to a 4-turn cooldown. But on his exclusive level 1 and 2, the duration of shield granted by Warrior's Roar, which is basically what the skill is increased to 3 turns. So instead of a 2-turn shield, you're getting a 3-turn shield, which is massive. Will gain 1 more action turn after he releases, which is also good because that's going to help with your cooldowns on your skill 2 and your skill 3 as well. So something there to look into. So you could go into multiple skills with that active, which is very, very nice. And you only need a level 2 exclusive for that. And as we said, he has a very good base high HP. So, you know, he's going to grant you some pretty beefy shields for an epic hero. Very solid. If you guys and gals are re-rolling, I'm not sure if they're going to add guest accounts or not. If they don't, it's just going to unfortunately be the recycling of Gmail accounts if you do really want to re-roll. But it's also going to depend how many servers that they drop with global. I'm hearing right now it's going to be multiple servers, so if you have 2, 3, or 4 options, hopefully you can get a Whim in one of those starts, which would be fantastic. But yes, definitely a solid hero. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on Whim than some of the others as well, because he is a very solid unit. Now, the other one here from Dragon Tribe is our boy Reeves. He looks very, very cool. He's a counterattack bleed. He's an attack type unit. He's also a red mark. HP 6500, attack 780, defense 650, and speed 985. Skill 1 deals 2 stages of 60%. Now, when you see something that says deals 2 stages, as long as it doesn't say deals a total of, then that means he's going to be doing that damage that many times, depending on how many stages there is. So if he's doing 2 stages of 60%, that's 120 total, just to kind of catch you guys up to kind of how this game operates. With a 20% chance to inflict 1 layer of bleed for 2 turns, of course that damage goes up to 100% times 2, and the chance remains the same. However, exclusive level 3 increases its damage by 20%, and the chance of inflicting bleed to 30%. So now you're going to have a 30% chance on both hits, so you have an opportunity there to apply at least 1 or possibly 2 bleeds. Grant self counterattack for 3 turns. Now this is huge. Counterattack units in this game are very, very good. Now this is going to be on 4-turn cooldown. He gives himself an effect hit up 1, and of course the counterattack. The 25% effect hit is going to be very good for him trying to land all of his dots, which of course is going to be in his case bleeds, which is going to be great, which will be able to utilize skill 1 off his counterattacks. So, and again, we already said his skill 1 does 2 stages of damage with 2 opportunities to apply bleeds on top of having a counterattack for 3 turns. That's pretty dang good. Which means he's also going to be one of those units that you want to put a leech set on because he's counterattacking quite often. Reeves has a 50% chance to reduce the cooldown of hack and slash by 1 turn each time he casts rapid slash. He's going to gain an additional 50% chance, which means that's a 100% chance that's going to trigger. Now, hack and slash by 1 turn is going to be crucial because that is his ultimate. So his skill 1 can actually lower his skill 3, which is awesome. Now, deals 5 stages of 70% attack damage each to a single enemy with a 30% chance to inflict 1 layer of bleed for 2 turns. That's huge. That's going to go up to 100% damage on a 4-turn cooldown, but as we said, you could lower those cooldowns with his other skill, which is awesome. Exclusive level 2, hack and slash increases the chance of inflicting bleed, excuse me, to 50%. Additionally inflicts horrify, and horrify is basically a 50-50 if you get to take an action or not, which is pretty cool. On the target for 1 turn if they have 5 layers of bleed after dealing damage to the target. Now, if you're fighting multiple enemies, it might not be as easy with just a single bleed unit to get that up to 5 stacks with Reeves, but if you're fighting just a single enemy, like a boss for example, Reeves is going to get that off pretty consistently, which is going to be incredible. So he's a pretty solid DPS in my opinion when it comes to epics. Now, we are done with Dragon Tribe. Let's move on to Sword Harbor Guards. We're going to try and speed this up a little bit until we get to the next granddaddy, or I should say the granddaddy of them all when it comes to epics. All right, so we have our boy Aboro. You actually get him for free as long as they keep the events, you know, the rewards rather, the sign-in rewards, the same as they did on the test server. If they did, everybody will get an Aboro for free, I believe, on day 2, if I'm not mistaken. Now, he's an AoE damage dealer. He's a bleed unit as well, which is great because Reeves is also a bleed unit. So you kind of got like a nice little DOT combo going on there. HP 7150, attack 715, 650 defense, speed 985. Skill 1 deals 2 stages of 110% each attack damage to a single enemy. Skill 2 deals 240% attack damage to a single enemy and inflicts feebleness for 2 turns. Feebleness basically allows you to do additional damage to an enemy. You can see here it increases damage by 20%. And of course, that's going to go up when you skill it up. Passive. Aboro has a 24% chance to inflict a layer of bleed for 2 turns when he lands a crit. Of course, that's going to go up an additional 16% for a grand total of 40% chance, which is not bad. So if you can get him on a nice crit set so that he could crit, there you go. Now his ultimate attacks a single enemy and then randomly selects an enemy 3 times. Now if you're only fighting 1 enemy, you won't have to worry about the randomness. Each attack dealing 220% attack damage. If the attack hits the identical target, deals 85 damage of the last damage dealt. That's of course going to go up an additional 60% with a 1-turn reduction of cooldown. Exclusive level 1 deals the same amount of damage to the same target and attacks enemies under feebleness status first. Exclusive level 3 When Phantom Cut is released, Aboro gains an additional 40% crit damage. And as we said earlier, you want to build this guy with crit. That way he can apply a lot of those bleeds and do a ton of additional damage. And if you're fighting the same enemy, he's going to do a lot of bonus damage here, which is incredible. So he's got a lot of DPS value and a lot of bleed value. Very cool unit. And he looks cool. All right. Now we also have Virto. I contemplated putting this guy on the list because really his big thing for him, for me personally, that we're going to talk about briefly, is that he has, he has his skill 2 here that increases all allies attack by 40%. And that is a huge attack buff for your team in this game. Outside of this, he doesn't offer as much value. I mean, he does have an AoE on his skill 3. He also can, of course, I'm sorry, I went to the passive. On his skill 3, as you can see here, he has an AoE and he can lower crit down, the crit rate down. He also additionally reduces their turn meters by 20%. If not, additionally reduces their turn meters by 10%. Increases the chance by 25% and increases turn meter reduction by 5% with his level 1. So he has some value there. He has some turn manipulation. He has, crit down, which could be, effective if you don't want to get hit, too hard, obviously. But his real bread and butter, obviously, is the attack up. Like, this is really what I like about him, is he's a nice little buffer for your team until you can get into one of your legends like Catherine, which we'll get into way down the road. Actually, we're going to get into her in the next video. Spoiler alert. So, Azure Blessing is still effective after Virto dies, which is cool. So basically, this passive is going to trigger even when he's dead. Doubles the effect of Azure Blessing if the ally is under attack up status. So if you get the attack up from his skill 2, and then the passive is active, obviously you're going to be getting double what the passive's offering you. And right now, the passive is giving you effect hit, which is good if you're running a very DOT heavy team or a debuff heavy team in general. The effect hit and percentage increase is going to be nice. I believe that goes up to 44% with the attack up status active. I do believe, yes. So it's going to be 22%. That's going to go to 44. That's a lot of effect hit. So he has a lot of utility. But again, some of that stuff's going to be more niche, not going to be as effective. But this is definitely going to be his bread and butter. Increase all allies attack. So I wanted to include him for that reason alone, if anything else. Honorable mention real quick before we move on is our boy Christian. Christian is a starter hero. He's not really going to offer anything to you outside of just being able to spam an AoE, which could be helpful for story mode specifically to try and, burst through early stages for maybe the first few days to the first week or so. Now, I have seen players take him all the way to like hell mode of story, which is very doable, but there are other better, epic options available as you're seeing here today. But if you get very unlucky and you're not pulling into any of them, you're not getting very many dupes of them, you're not able to just build them up the way you want to, definitely go ahead and just consider using Christian if, worst case scenario. If you're not getting the legends you need, if you're not getting the epics you need, Christian is not bad. He's just not on my list per se because there are a ton of other options that are better than him. But if you're looking for a unit that could just sit here and keep smashing with a nice, actually it's a pretty high, honestly, multiplier on his AoE. If you want to just keep doing that, that's fine by me. I just wanted to kind of give Christian a little love here for a minute. Didn't want to go over him too much. You guys can look into him if you like. Again, he's not a part of my main list. He'd be like a secondary option on my list, but I want to give him an honorable mention because I felt he deserved it. All right. Sunset Stages. There was nothing in there of interest of mine. There's nothing there that really stood out, that really was special in any way or offered anything to your team that could make it better than some of these other options. So unfortunately, there was nothing from Sunset Stages in terms of epics that I really deemed worthy of the list. Now, Foresters. Foresters has 2 really solid units, and they're better in a pair. So kind of put an asterisk next to these 2 units because separately they are good, but together they're great. So those 2 units are going to be, first up here, we have Stan. Stan the man. Even though he's not a man, who cares? So he has 7,150 HP, 650 attack, 780 defense, 975 speed. He's a defense type unit, control and poison, and he's a blue mark. Alright, skill 1. Deals 140% defense damage to a to a single enemy with a 40% chance to inflict 1 layer of poison for 2 turns. That chance will go up to 60%, which is very nice. So you're going to get that poison off. Deals 260% defense damage to a single enemy with a 80% chance to inflict silence for 1 turn. Increases the chance by 20% if the target's defense is less than self. So if you're fighting an enemy that has less defense than Stan, that percentage goes up to 100% chance to silence them. He also increases damage and gets a cooldown reduction. Exclusive level 1. When Stan releases Overwhelming, which is this skill here, his defense is increased by 30% for 2 turns. So that's going to help with the cause, of trying to inflict a silence at 100%. So very nice there. Passive. The poison damage inflicted by Stan is calculated based on his defense. So instead of it being scaled to your attack like normal, because if you go over here and look at poison, you'll see here it takes 100% attack damage of the inflictor. You can stack it up to 10 times and it ignores defense. But his is going to scale to defense, which is perfect because you're going to be building him with high HP and high defense, not attack. So it's going to be great for his poisons to work that way. Increases Stan's defense by 4% when he takes direct damage up to 10 times. This effect cannot be removed, which means he can stack his defense up to an additional 40%. And then you can also gain another 2% down here. So actually that goes up to 60% if you calculate it. So that's pretty nuts. His defense is going to get pretty beefy. All right, ultimate. Deals 100% defense damage to a single enemy with a 60% chance to inflict 5 layers of poison for 2 turns. That's going to go up to 90%. Pretty crazy. It's a lot of layers of poison potentially. Exclusive level 3. When Rolling Stones is released, there is a 100% chance to inflict silence for 1 turn if the target's defense is less than his own. So he has 2 possible skills that allow him to do a 100% chance to silence on units that can be silenced. So that's very, very nice. He's got stackable poisons. He's got stackable defense. So he's going to be a very good tank as well. So very solid unit. But again, him with the other unit we're going to be talking about here, our girl Malasa. She is a green mark, attack type unit, and poison. Now, unlike our boy Stan, she'll be scaling to defense for her poisons. She'll be scaling to attack for her poisons and not defense like Stan does. So her HP is 6,500, attack 715, defense 715, speed 985. Okay. Deals 160% attack damage to a single enemy with a 40% chance to inflict 1 layer of poison for 2 turns. That, of course, goes up an additional 80% damage. And on her exclusive level 1, increases the chance of poison by 60% when Malasa uses Poison Spear to attack targets under poison status. Now, that means it goes up to a 100% chance, which is insane. So she is going to be doing quite a bit of poisons on her skill 1, which is fantastic because that has no cooldown. Okay, Poisoned Arrow. Deals 180%. Or sorry, did I read that right? No, yes I did. Okay, I was just making sure because I always get the spear and the arrow confused sometimes. Deals 180% attack damage to a target and 2 random enemies with a 60% chance to inflict 1 layer of poison for 2 turns. That goes up to an 80% chance. And exclusive level 2, Poison Arrow, additionally triggers poison 1 time. Up to 6 layers of poison can be triggered each time. So again, this is going to be another unit that's going to be stacking poison. Passive. Malasa deals 20% more direct damage to any enemy under poison status. Of course, that goes up an additional 16% for 36% total. So that's going to be nice. And then her ultimate deals 420% attack damage to a single enemy and inflicts 2 layers of poison for 2 turns. That, of course, goes up another 180% for a grand total of 600% on her ult, which is a very nice modifier for single target damage for an epic unit. And of course, applying all of those bonus poisons is going to be nice. So her and Stan together are going to be very good if you want to run a poison team. All right, moving on. So that was Foresters. Doom Legion. There's only one in Doom Legion, and that is our girl Liz. Liz is a do-it-all character. She just, like, what doesn't she do, right? Cleanse, shield, heal, HP burning. She's a force mark, which is kind of like a light unit in this game. There is no dark unit in this game, by the way, in case some of you are wondering. Maybe they'll add those in the future. I'm not sure. Maybe they'll call them a shadow mark or something like that. It'd be pretty cool. But anyways, or dark matter mark. That'd be pretty cool. Anyways, HP 6500, attack 715, defense 715, speed 985. Skill 1. Deals 180% attack damage to a single enemy with a 30% chance to inflict 1 layer of HP burning for 2 turns. HP burning is a really cool dot. Takes damage by 8% of max HP each turn before action when self is under HP burning status. The damage caps at 30% of the attacker's max HP and ignores defense stackable up to 5 times. Now what this means is it's going to take the higher number. It's either going to take the 8% of the max HP of the enemy, or it's going to take the cap of 30% of your max HP. So the person who inflicts its max HP, 30%. So whatever number comes out to higher is going to be the one that's going to take. Because if you're fighting like a normal enemy, like just minions or even people in PvP, you're probably going to hit the 8% of max HP almost all the time for the most part. But if you're fighting like an endgame boss that has like hundreds of thousands of HP, if not maybe in the million or whatever, then you're going to hit your 30% cap. So you definitely want to build Liz with as much HP as you can, so that way you can kind of, establish more damage there. Okay. Restores HP by 80% of attack plus 6% of max HP for an ally and grants them resist debuff for 1 turn. And of course, you get an additional 6% max HP regeneration, so she's self-efficient. Liz restores self HP by 3% of max HP for every 1 debuff inflicted on the enemy. Of course, that's going to go up an additional 2% as well, making it 5%. So again, she's self-efficient. She's doing a ton of damage with HP burning. And then here's her ultimate. Her ultimate also has exclusive 2 in level 3, which we'll get to in a moment. Restores HP by 10% of max HP for all allies and cleanses 5 layers of DOT debuffs, which would be, like your poisons, your burns, your HP burning, your bleeds, etc. Meanwhile, grants them a shield by 20% of Liz's max HP for 2 turns. So, I mean, that's just a lot of stuff in one skill. I mean, she's, like I said, she's a do-it-all unit. She's very, very versatile. Her exclusive level 2 restores the target's HP by 3% of max HP for every 1 layer of DOT debuff cleansed. And then exclusive level 3 increases the shield strength provided by resurrection to 40% of max HP. Now her 40% shield is not going to be big as Wim's because her base HP is much lower than his, but still to be able to have that in your back pocket on top of being able to apply HP burning, to be able to have some heals on multiple skills, self-efficiency, shields, cleanse, she does it all. She's a fantastic unit. And she looks really cool. So that is Liz. That is Doom Legion Liz. Holy Light Parliament. Now, we have one here, and then we have one honorable mention. Now, I'm going to quickly just say Roselia. She almost made my list, if not for another unit we're going to be talking about later, and his name is Lester. If not for Lester, she would be on this list. You build her full crit damage, she's going to do a ton of damage per individual waves. She's going to be more of a wave-based unit clearer, more so than just like long-term single boss fights. But she's got a ton of damage. Very solid unit. But again, because the unit we're going to talk about later, Lester, she didn't make my list. She just did not make the cut. Now, who did make the cut is Maya. Maya is a buff, cleanse, and heal. She is a blue mark. She's, of course, a support unit, healer, whatever you want to call them. She looks really, really cool. 6,500 HP, 715 attack, defense 650, speed 985. Now, she deals 120% attack damage to a single enemy and restores HP by 5% of max HP for the ally with the lowest HP, which is always very good. Restores HP by 15% of max HP for an ally and another 2 random allies, before which, if the target's HP is full, cleanses 3 layers of DOT debuffs from them and grants them heal for 2 turns. Heal, by the way, is like a 5% heal each turn for the 2 turns duration. Passive. Maya restores self HP by 1.8% of max HP whenever an ally takes direct damage. That's very nice. It looks really small to you, but when you have a lot of units being like AoE'd constantly with a lot of the content available in this game, she's going to heal herself up quite often. And then her ultimate. Maya loses HP by 35% of max HP and restores all allies HP 3 times. You read that correctly, 3 times. Each time restoring 8% of max HP. Before the first restoration, grants the target Consolidation 1 for 2 turns if their HP is full. Before the second restoration, grants them a shield by 15% of their max HP for 2 turns if their HP is full. So essentially, if they're already full when you use the heal, the first one will already grant them Consolidation. If they're full healed by the second one, they're going to get a shield. And if they're fully healed by the third one, they're going to get Resistance debuff for 1 turn. So it's a very cool mechanic. And down here on her exclusive level 2, Maya loses HP by 15% of max HP instead of losing the full 35%. So that's a big drop off. And the payoff is very good because, you know, as we said, she has her passive. She also has her skill 2. I mean, she has a lot of different capabilities of self-regenerating herself in a way. So she's very self-efficient. She's a very good healer, cleanser, shield. She's got a lot of stuff in her kit. Very solid healer. And she's not the only healer, you know, pure healer we're going to be talking about. We also have another one later down the list, which we'll get to. So that is Holy Light Parliament. The Forgotten, well, let's just say in terms of epics, it can be forgotten because there's nothing there of value that I've seen. Eternal Sect. Now, this is where we're getting into the big one. This is the epic of all epics in the game. This guy should be a legend, to be honest. Matter of fact, if you play with him long enough, he'll be a legend in your mind. And that is our boy, Holder. Force Mark, attack type unit, AoE damage, counterattack, and bleed. And you guys have already seen it. We've already mentioned 2 other units on this list that were also bleed. So the bleed team's looking pretty strong here when it comes to just pure epics. Now, he's got 7150 HP, attack 715, defense 715, speed is 980. Skill 1 deals 2 stages of 60% attack damage each to a single enemy with a 20% chance to inflict a layer of bleed for 2 turns. Deathstorm, very cool name, deals 2 stages of 50% attack damage each to all enemies with a 20% chance to inflict a layer of bleed for 2 turns. And then his passive, Hidden Shadow. Holder deals 24% more direct damage to any target under bleed status. Of course, that goes up an extra 20% and is exclusive to. If Holder attacks targets under bleed status, the direct damage dealt by Hidden Shadow is an additionally increased by 5% up to 25 for every layer of bleed that target has. So that's quite a bit of bonus damage. And then his finale, you know, what makes Holder, why he's so good. It's because he's arrogant, and that's just not the name of his skill. That's just the way he is. Holder increases his attack by 20% for 2 turns, meanwhile grants himself counterattack for 3 turns. Afterward, he gains 1 more action move, which means he's basically going to be in counterattack constantly when you have him fully skilled up. Insane, because his cooldown is going to be a 4-turn cooldown. His counterattack is going to be for 3 turns, but he also gains a bonus turn, which is insane. The duration of counterattack inflicted by Arrogant is extended by 1 turn, which as I said, it's going to be 4 turns on a 4-turn cooldown with a bonus move. If self is in attack up status, increase self attack by 40% instead of the original 20. This guy is a lunatic. He is a monster. If you ever played Epic 7, this guy is what I would consider early game Moonlight Ken, where he could 1 verse 4, 1 verse 5 units. It's insane what this guy can do. If you are looking to reroll, or you're trying to chase after specific epics or build up specific epics, if you get Holder, put him in your team. Even when you get legends, put him in your team. He's worth it. This guy is incredible. Very, very good unit. Cannot speak more highly of him. We actually went too far back. All right, let's go down here now. So that was Eternal Sect. Nameless Brotherhood. We have one in here as well, and that is our boy Lester. Now, this is why Rosalia was not on my list. She didn't make the cut because of our boy Lester. AoE damage, Force Mark, attack type unit, 7150 HP, 715 attack, defense 780, 975 speed. Skill 1, deals 160% attack damage to a single enemy with 30% chance to reduce their 30% defense for 2 turns. Exclusive level 3, doubles the chance of penetrating shell and piercing shell, and hail of bullets has a 30% piercing rate when Lester has guaranteed crit. So he's getting a lot of value from that. The defense down 1, of course, is 30%. Skill 2, he has a defense down 2 on this one, which is the big one. Deals 200% attack damage to a single enemy with a 60% chance to reduce their 60% defense for 2 turns. That goes up to an 80% chance. Exclusive level 3. Doubles the chance of penetrating shell and piercing shell, and hail of bullets has a 30% piercing rate when Lester has guaranteed crit. So, go to the passive. Now, the passive is incredible. This is what makes Lester Lester. This is why he is so good and made the list. Lester gains guaranteed crit for 1 turn at the beginning of each wave. Afterwards, gains guaranteed crit every 4 turns for 1 turn. While guaranteed crit is in effect, gains 30% more crit damage. Of course, that goes up to 50% crit damage when you level up a skill. Exclusive level 2 increases Lester's leech rate by 30% when he has guaranteed crit. Basically, when he uses any move under the guaranteed crit buff, he will basically lifesteal 30% of that damage. So he gets a free built-in lifesteal. So if you put him on leech set, you know, you could potentially get that up to 50% plus, which would be great. Or you could even go full crit damage and really make good use of that guaranteed crit buff. Now, unlike Rosalia, he gets to choose whatever skill he wants to use the guaranteed crit with, as long as there's no skills on cooldown when he has the buff active, which allows for more flexibility. You could use it on his skill 2 to get the defense break. You could use it on his ultimate. You could do whatever you want to do. You can mix and match, have fun with it, but he's going to do a ton of damage. Because guaranteed crit is awesome, which means you do not have to build this guy with any crit at all, which is very, very useful when you're trying to build up gear. Ultimate. Deals 260% attack damage to all enemies, which goes up to 320. Now, remember when I said that he has a guaranteed crit buff? Imagine doing a guaranteed crit with additional crit damage and a lifesteal with a huge AoE. Sounds pretty nuts, right? Lester is a wave clearer. He's going to fly through story. Exclusive level 1, Hail of Bullets. Hail of Bullets has a 40% chance to inflict a layer of burn for 2 turns. So there you go. He's picking up a DOT to go with it. Exclusive level 3 doubles the chance of penetrating shell and piercing shell and hail of bullets, which you've probably seen that spammed across all of his skills here. Has a 30% piercing rate when Lester has guaranteed crit. I'm not sure why it's listed on every skill, unless I'm overlooking something. But essentially, he gets a 30% pierce as well. So, this dude is a DPS powerhouse. Now, we have finally come to the finish line. Our final epic unit here under Wizard's Eye, and that is our boy Magus, or Magus, however you want to say his name. He's a heal type unit, support. He's a red mark, HP 6500, 715 for both attack and defense, and speed 985. You'll notice a lot of the stats are pretty similar among all of the epics, outside of like Wim, who has like a very abnormally high HP. Deals 160 to a single enemy and reduces their turn meter by 15%. And don't sleep on turn meter manipulation, guys. That's going to be very huge in PvP, for example. Even in, you know, PvE content, when you want to go more often than the enemy. Very, very strong. Especially if you compare that up with like a speed down. Restores HP by 7% of max HP for an ally and another 2 random allies, and grants them a layer of heal for 2 turns, only 3-turn cooldown. Passive. When he releases a skill, he has a 60% chance to grant himself a layer of heal for 2 turns, which goes up to 100%. So he's going to be self-efficient. And then his ultimate restores HP by 100% of attack plus 8% of max HP for all allies, or a turn cooldown. Exclusive 1. The fewer allies in battle, the more HP meditation power restores. It can be restored up to 60%. So he can actually, when you get into like really drawn out fights where you have lower and lower amount of allies still remaining, like a couple of them have of course been taken out, his heals are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, which is going to be very good in certain types of content. Exclusive level 3. Meditation power cleanses all allies' attribute debuffs. Now, unlike the DOT debuffs, attribute debuffs would be like attack down, defense down, crit down, you know, stuff like that. Stuff that affects your actual stats. So he's going to cleanse all of those. So he picks up a cleanse there, which is going to be very, very good. Now, in terms of the argument between him and Maya, I feel Maya might be more useful in more types of content, but in like maybe more harder content that requires big heals, he might shine a little bit more there, because like more drawn out fights where you know you're going to end up losing a unit or two, that's when he's going to really showcase his true potential as a healer, because his heals are going to become gigantic. So that is the best epics in the game for Infinite Magicraid. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, check notifications, join me in the Discord in the description below as always. Don't forget to feed Gaia, feed our little boy Gio, our little blue dragon mascot here. I don't know if you guys have really noticed, but he's in the bottom right of your screen if you're watching today's video. And we're going to start plastering him all over the website when I get that done, and other forms of social media. So definitely feed our boy, make him nice and fat. Don't want a skinny, weak dragon around here, right? So yeah, hope you guys all enjoyed. We're going to be having the next video coming soon, talking about the best legends available. So that one's going to be a lot of fun too. Hope you guys enjoy. As I said, catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.